Camilla. What she was about to tell them would change everything, the world even, but whether for the better or for the worse, she could not say. It was every bit her fault, she supposed. She wouldn't be in this position if she'd done the wise thing and never married, though she hadn't much say in the matter. Or if she would have never borne a child, but she had, and here she stood. Despite her dilemma, she really didn't have much of a choice, regardless of what everyone would say. Camilla came from a long line of women who loved their children entirely too much. It was told her when she was young that her mother's great-aunt Vexi, when faced with the decision to have her womb-dead child pulled away from her loins, chose to lay there and die with it inside of her. A family curse of sorts. So, in a way, she had to do this. As she slipped through the castle, passing from shadow to shadow, she froze as she was illuminated by a bright flash from the windows at the top of the stone walls. A few moments later, thunder followed, and she continued. The sky was fraught with early morning storms. These, along with the strange shaking of the ground that oft-times accompanied them, was becoming of great concern to her. Oh, the earth went through her cycles of diverse things in diverse places, of this she was sure. But these storms had been fiercer, darker than other storms, their winds carrying the scent of coming change. But on this particular morning she was rather thankful for the darkened skies and impassable rains, for the weather would give some cover to her clandestine comings and goings. She walked with the seamless movements of a spectre, ordering each stride to lower her presence, aware of each extremity as she willed herself not to stumble. She moved down corridors and around corners by the northwest bailey, which ran between the wall and the castle's old side. The blowing rains had soaked her through not 20 paces from the lower southern door she used as an exit. The Eye, as it was called, was an oft-forgotten passage designed for the halfling slaves, who were typically smaller people. It did not permit her to pass through without ducking, but it was the only passage in which she would not likely be spotted. She emerged in the bailey and was in open view from wall to wall and all the way out to the main gates. Fortunately, no one was milling about, other than a large rabbit, but it wouldn't remain that way for long. She would have to hurry, as she was totally exposed in the bailey. Looking down through the surge was disorientating, but she dared not look up and reveal her face. She reached out and steadied herself on the veteran stones of the old side walls as she turned the last corner before the turnip cellar. If she could pass another 200 feet without notice, her plan would be a success. She stopped and looked to the top of the walls before moving on. As the first line of eyes for the crown, the archers that manned the battlements of the curtain wall just across the bailey were ever watching. But this morning their heads were covered and kept down by the daylight torrent, much the same as hers. This brought her no small comfort. She would take any help God had for her, now and in the days to come. She began traversing the last stretch, and at first tiptoed, watching the backs of the archers for any sign of turning. They were steadfast and unmoving, gargoyles upon the wall. She turned her gaze back downward and hurried her pace. The farther she made it, the faster she stepped, until her hand brushed a stone no longer fastened by the mortar. It fell free of the old side and tumbled down the other stones, clacking as it went. She stopped and held her breath.